What's up, everybody? It's me, Stevie, Supersmallchibiwolf, Supersmallchibiwolf, and today I'm going to be talking about my issue with Capcom's Resident Evil remakes. So, yeah, let's get into this. So, in modern times, we have had a recent Code Veronica, Resident Evil Code Veronica remake trailer, and I personally think when it comes down to it, I feel like when it comes down to it, Capcom's lazy, they're a little bit lazy. I feel like they kind of fallen under where other gaming companies have fallen under in recent times, where they prefer to rely on the past stuff than modern things, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I love Resident Evil 9 Requiem. It's a wonderful, amazing game, but it's been months since that game's, launched and all that, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when it comes down to it, why have constant remakes? PS4, they filled it up with a lot of remakes. Yes, they had new games back then too, but I feel like when it comes down to it, let me say this, I've talked about remakes, remasters and all that. Me prefer remasters over remakes, and just seeing constantly just remake. Like, instead of that, take that whole team and give us like DLC for Resident Evil 9 Requiem so we could have more information and stuff from that game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like seeing how a lot of these, Capcom's relying on the remake, stuff. It's kind of, I wasn't into that, all that stuff. But seeing it now is like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, like do some more stuff. Capcom has a huge amount of IPs, different franchises and amazing things. And instead of bringing a new Darkstalkers or any other type of game, you know what I mean? It would be really cool. A new Pocket Fighters, you know what I mean? That chibi design and all that. With all the characters that they have nowadays, that would be like, 30 characters within that one game, at least. Now, I don't know, man, when it comes down to it, it just bothers me. When you see a company that that has like so much and could do a lot, you know what I mean? And they choose to, be lazy and go the lazy route. You know what I mean? With all that stuff. It kind of bothers me. Because I remember when Capcom used to put out hittles after hittles, and it was like, yo, wow. Now, I'm also say this, the fact that it doesn't matter if, this is not Capcom only, this is any company. The fact that companies do remakes just bothers me. You know what I mean? They take the actual game, they change everything about the game, take out specific parts, and just shed out something like, here you go, public, enjoy. Just for a quick, I'm going to call it how it is, quick cash grab. You know what I mean? Just do a remaster, update the graphics, boom, done. You know what I mean? Why you need to cut content and it's like, what? I don't know. It should be called a reimagine instead of, I don't know. It annoys me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I feel like when it comes down to it as well, like I said, many gaming companies like Capcom have a huge amount of, IPs, Capcom has wonderful IPs that they haven't touched since like late 90s, early 2000s. And it's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? They teased stuff in the past during the PS3 generations, and I was like, that never went anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, the best that they've been doing is just like giving us remakes or some auto random stuff, And I'm like, dude, come on. And then I remember seeing recently this image here with the Resident Evil remake trilogy. Oh, fuck that trilogy, man. That shit sucks. And I'm hearing that they want to do a remake of Resident Evil 1. Get the PS4 version. You get Resident Evil 0 and 1 in one disc. You know what I mean? You don't need to do that. Just re-release that for PS5 and Switch 2 or whatever. You know what I mean? And there you go. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when it comes down to Capcom, it's disappointing, to see stuff like that, because I feel like they have a lot of potential, a lot of IPs, and long story short, one big reason, because when it comes down to video games, right, I view Capcom next to Square Enix, Nintendo, Sony, you know what I mean? Like, they're like top, you know what I mean? They really were always like on the top, amazing and cool. That's why I'm talking about this now, because I care about the company. I'm like, dude, come on. They made awful decisions in the past. That's why I was out of the Resident Evil since, in the PS4 gen. I was just like, I'm not into that. No, I'm good. But, seeing how they are, going from like PS3 all the way to the PS5, you know what I mean? That jump with PS4, like I said, boom, I'm good. I'm like, man, so much remakes being announced and stuff. Like, use all that talent, and all that money and create new games. You know what I mean? I just feel like that's a thing that's been bothering me. I just want to talk about that. You know what I mean? When it comes down to Resident Evil and Capcom in general. One thing I would say though, when it comes down to the remakes, is that when it comes down to when they finally finish running out of Resident Evil remakes, games of the Resident Evil to remake, maybe then we'll finally get even more games, relating to other IPs or franchises, you know what I mean, that they own. And I'm like, oh man, I hope that day comes. They just, remake everything and let's see where they're going to end up. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully they focus on even more games, more new games and, all that. But I want them to focus on new IPs as well. You know what I mean? That's another thing I'm interested in seeing Capcom doing. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Resident Evil. It's amazing and cool. Like I say, I kind of prefer the originals than seeing them remake everything. Or at least give a remaster, better controls and graphics. That's all. But, yeah, I want them to focus on the other IPs as well, or at least give us new storylines with these characters. Rebecca Chambers, a new game. Give us a new game with her. She hasn't had a new game since when? You know what I mean? Like, wow. And give Claire a new game as well. Like, I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's like, come on. You know what I mean? Resident Evil 9 Requiem DLC. How about that? That is what I would love to see. You know what I mean? Be like, oh, here's the release date. We gonna come out with it. Boom, there. To be, I don't know. It just bothers me because, companies like Capcom, they have so much potential to do so much, but yet they don't choose that route. You know what I mean? And it just bothers me because I care about these games, and I love them. And, I know that they are capable of doing so much, but to see them go that route, it's kind of like, come on. Also, one last thing I want to talk about is co-op. I hear there's going to be like this, like the DLC and updates for Resident Evil 9 Requiem and all that. I hope that they have a co-op mode because, that I love what they do that, You get to play through the whole story or the game and have like these other modes, and then you have a friend to play with you or other friends, and then all you come together just you know what I mean? Have fun and just destroy everything. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that's cool and fun. You know what I mean? Have side games instead of remakes. You know what I mean? Like, interesting stories based on characters that, they don't even use anymore. You know what I mean? And just have like co-op options and online mode just to mess around and just have fun. You know what I mean? I'd rather see that than remakes, the endless remakes. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here, talk about that. Let me know what you think. You gotta see Capcom use Resident Evil as a remake, just whatever, just remake constantly every little thing that they possibly can. Or would you rather have wonderful, brand new games ready to go? Let me know in the comments what you all think. I just wanted to talk about this because this has been bothering me. So yeah, with that being that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye.